case, since currently we are trying, but it was not happening. So finally we are here. So Abdullah Khan, I am alone. Let me see. This one right here. This late. Okay. Just fun. I guess there isn't any. Kushagra Tripathi, hi, hi. Way to Clouds, hi, Sarim, hi. And Aniruddha Rawat, hi, hi. Sarvesh Rajput, good evening, bhai, good evening. And Sasmita Root, yeah, Sarim, it's okay now. Okay, Technical Basant Raj, hi, hi. Izhar Ashraf, hi, hi. Just fun. Oops. Here are so many people. Okay. This is Rao Ashish Yadav. Good evening. Good evening. कैलिब्रो भाई आपके फ्यूचर प्लान्स क्या हैं? वेल रिसर्च इन फिजिक्स. निर्मल खान हेलो. तो स्पीकर वही होता है. निर्मल खान हेलो. सारिम हेलो. एंड हाउ आर यू ब्रो? वेल आई एम फाइन. And new movies and new songs. Hi bro. Hi. And Neelu Mishra. Hi Sarim bhai. How are you? Hi. I'm fine. And Mubashir Altaf. How are you dear sir? I'm fine. And Farhad, Eid Mubarak in advance. Same to you. Way to Glau Sarim, why don't you also study mathematics? Um, Actually, yeah, I'm also studying mathematics. Sasmita Root, hello bro, my target is also to become a scientist. Oops, that's great. Kazaki Arata, do you understand physics at once while studying from any textbook? Well, sometimes I understand, sometimes I don't. So in those cases, I have to try a lot, and eventually it happens. Sanjay Kumar, I want to increase my self study. I see. So if you just have to do it, right? You just have to try harder and harder, and you'll understand it better and better, and then you'll go for more and more. Harshvardhan, hello Sarim, long see, no time. I guess that will be long time no see, right? Way to Klaus. Have you attended quantum mechanics course by Professor V. Balakrishnan from IIT Madras? No, I haven't. Prachi Devi M section. Sarim, please discuss Young double slit experiment. Actually, Young double slit experiment, which was conducted by Thomas Young, yeah, early in the early 19th century. So what basically happened was that there were two slits. There was like a kind of wall, and there were two slits present in that, and there is a wall behind that. There is a kind of screen, and when light waves, actually light, or as we can say, because they are neither waves nor particles, as in the language of quantum mechanics, were passed through the slits. So we can see that they were behaving, there was interference going on with light, and that only proved that light can be classified in waves form. That was about Young's double slit experiment. Okay, this is Nirmal Khan. Hey, how many days have you fasted for? Actually, I was around 10 to 15. Okay, Fateh, रमजान कैसे चल रहे हैं? Well, they are going good. Okay, Mubashir Altaf, sorry. Sir, please give me brief introduction about Kepler's law. Kepler's law, basically, these were those laws which were published by Kepler, Johannes Kepler, and by the German physicist. And what basically happened that he didn't actually discover these laws by derivations or something. Rather, what he did that there was another physicist, or say rather philosopher, who was the teacher of Johannes Kepler, Tycho Brahe, and he used the observations, yeah, which were developed by him to deduce three laws. And then what he basically found that every planet were orbiting around the sun with the sun at one focus of an ellipse. So the orbit is an ellipse rather than being a complete circular path. Later on, what he found that each planet, if we are trying to draw a line from the sun to the planet, so it is sweeping, that line will sweep equal area and equal time, no matter where is the planet at that current location. And the third law that he derived from right here was that actually, if we consider the time period squared for a planet to complete the orbit, so that is just directly proportional to the cubed of the semi-major axis. लाइक तुम्हारा बर्थ ऑफ डेट, दैट्स रादर डेट ऑफ बर्थ कौन से मंथ और ईयर में है? मेरा डेट ऑफ बर्थ है ऑन 14th of August in 2010. Universe, hi. This is Yash Kumar. What you will say about Bermuda Triangle? Well, my Bermuda Triangle, I've already made one video on Bermuda Triangle, so you can go and watch that. How many hours do you study daily, Mukul Singh? Well, I study like when there was lockdown and everything, I was studying around 8 to 10 hours each day. But now I'm not getting that much time. So whatever time I'm getting, I'm trying my best to utilize all of that. Okay, here it is Sanjay Kumar. Sir, HC Verma is best for class 10th or not? Actually, I haven't studied HC Verma for class 10th. Rather, I picked it from 11th and 12th, so I'm not sure. But yeah, the writer is really great, so I think you will be able to understand all the concepts from his book. And Shahidul Islam Sarim, your address, please tell me. Well, address, I am currently living in village Orahi, and that's our post is Bhatni Dadan, district Devariya, and state is Uttar Pradesh. Universe, who is right about gravity, Newton or Einstein? So obviously we know that the latest experiments have shown that Newton was right till we were actually dealing with gravity that deals with our everyday life. But when we go to other higher scales, like when we talk about the orbit of Mercury, so Newton's law of gravity no longer holds, and that is where Einstein comes in the field. And then what happens that Albert Einstein shows his general theory of relativity, which can really well predict the orbit of Mercury and everything, and things like gravitational time dilation and everything. So obviously we know Sir Einstein is right, but yeah, maybe in future we may also find such kinds of like experiments in which even Einstein's general theory of relativity fails. Like nobody knows. Like if we are trying our best to prove a single theory by experimental facts and everything by experiments, so no matter how many experiments you are trying, and that proves the theory, but still there can come a single experiment which may try to prove the theory wrong, and then we have to also modify the theory. So it is that if the experiments are giving the right thing about the theory, so confidence in the theory increases. But if there is only a single experiment that doesn't go along with the theory, so that it is wrong. Harshvardhan, hey Sarim, can you sing? Sai hua pyao pyao. I'm not getting the point. Creative Insan, you are little Newton. Thank you.
Question देखो बेटा question.
Amrita Pritam Prasad, can you explain the difference between pressure and force? Well, the basic difference between pressure and force is that force is the quantity that is really responsible for creating an acceleration to any certain object. While pressure, that the amount of force that you are applying on a given area is the pressure.
क्वेश्चन नहीं है.
Let me see. Black, what is your age now? I'm currently 11 years old, around 11 years and 8 months.
8 नहीं 7 7 या 6.
L, right? Here's L. So let's say a ball is present behind a wall and we keep the mirror in such a way that we can't see the ball and only the wall. So does the ball exist in mirror? Well, if we are changing the angle that we are looking by the by the mirror, so obviously we can still see the ball. That is, the ball is existing in the mirror. But anyway, when we are going to interpretations of quantum mechanics and everything, so it's really a complicated thing. The reason that you can see that the ball is really existing there, since in quantum mechanics there isn't something like a realistic position. Instead, there is the orthodox position, that when we make a measurement, so it's the measurement that forces any particle to take a specific position. No measurement implies that there is no definite position of a particle. So if we are keeping it from the daily life perspective, so yeah, the ball is still existing, but according to quantum mechanics it doesn't.
Explain the maxwell.
Here's Aditya Shingar. And is there any other way for balancing a chemical equation other than hit and trial method? Actually, I'm not that great in chemistry. Actually, I'm not good in chemistry of higher level either. That is the thing that I can't tell about balancing a chemical equation. The other ways, in fact, I don't know myself how to balance a chemical equation. Hope I'll study it later.
क्वेश्चन देखो बेटा क्वेश्चन.
Yeah, I'm looking at the questions. Brock is a listener. So, what is quantum physics? Well, quantum physics developed in the early 20th century. Quantum physics developed in the early 20th century. What it basically says about that, first of all, it begins with the discovery by what happened, that once a physicist, he discovered that actually the light, since when we take the particle form of light, so according to Sir Max Planck, light is existing in the form of particles called photons. Rather, it is quantum, but quantum can be used for many kinds of terms. Like you can say quantum of energy, you can say quantum of momentum, quantum of mass, and quantum of charge, and various things like that. So this kind of quantum of energy of light, as said of photons, and the plural is photons. So what it basically happens, that there can be a photon, there can be two photons, three photons, that is, it is existing in discrete values. So the energy of light exists in discrete values. And later on, as we went on for further researches, so it implied many kinds of shocking results, like the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, that with the more accuracy you know the position of a particle, the lesser accuracy can you know its momentum, that is its velocity, mass times velocity. So rather we can just say for velocity. And there are other like many strange kinds of phenomena in quantum mechanics, like the particle can never have a definite position. We can never be sure where is the particle. Quantum mechanics just gives us a probability of where is the particle.
क्वेश्चन लोग के देखो.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Chandrakant Majpati, do you believe in mirror theory? Well, actually, I'm not sure about the mirror theory. What is it? So please write there. Okay, that's question that Susmita wrote, why neutrinos are ghost particles. Well, neutrinos are considered to be ghost particles because any neutrino rarely interacts with the normal mass, right? So if we have the normal matter all around us and we have few neutrinos going around here, so it is hardly possible that the neutrino will interact through them. And if the neutrino doesn't interact with any other particle, and it rarely does, that is the thing that we can rarely discover neutrinos, we can rarely see them. So it is very rare to find neutrinos, and especially in laboratories and in experiments, and that is the reason why neutrinos are called ghost particles. Alicia Kashish, is Q equals mc square will applicable in every conditions? Well, it's rather E equals mc square. That is the energy equals mass times the square of speed of light, and it is not applicable in every condition. Like, it is rather complete equation, incomplete equation. A complete equation rather will involve also the momentum of the particle, because this is just for particles that are at rest. If we want the complete equation with a particle with a momentum, that is the velocity, so we rather need the equation E equals the square root of mc square whole square plus dash pc whole square.
What is torque?
What is photoelectric effect? Sobhagya Mohanty Sono. Photoelectric effect is such an effect when light emitted on a metal surface. So the photons, that is the energy packets of light, give each photon gives the electrons of the metal surface their packets of energy, and that is the thing that if the frequency of light is high enough, then the photons energy will be high enough, and thus maybe the electrons will gain energy from these photons, from these particles of light. And if they have high enough energy, the sufficient amount of energy, so these electrons using their kinetic energy will leave the metal surface, and this process is known as photoelectric effect.
रोक के देखो, कोई दूसरा क्वेश्चन देखो रोक के.
Ram Khiladi Singh, what is equals mc square? This is Einstein's energy mass equivalence equation, that mass and energy are actually, they can be converted into one another, and they're equivalent. So according to this equation, which holds for masses that are at rest, so according to this equation, the energy and masses are equivalent. So any certain object that has the mass also has a certain amount of energy in that. L, there's another question. So imagine if any object of mass m reaches the speed of light, what will happen to its mass? As in the equation, m equals m over the square root of 1 plus v over c whole square. So I guess that's rather minus. Yeah. So here what will basically happen, that there is no object in this universe which has a certain mass can reach the speed of light, because according to Einstein's latter researches after the special theory of relativity, Einstein had shown that any object that has mass also has energy in it, and any object that has energy has a definite mass due to that. So if we are trying to accelerate a certain amount of mass and increasing its amount of energy, so the mass will be also increasing by this very same amount, and as will increase energy and energy, the mass is also increasing, and it will reach to a certain point where we can no longer increase the energy due to the very much high amount of mass present in that object. So there is like no object in this universe with definite amount of mass that can move to the speed of light, so the equation is no longer required.
देखो रोक के क्वेश्चन देखो.
Here's Ashwini Nipane. Why universe expands? Well, the universe expands since we don't have a definite reason for that, but right after the Big Bang, that is right after everything happened, right at the beginning of the time itself, after beginning of space time, and after beginning of the universe itself, like universe went on expanding and expanding. Like the only thing at that time it could do was to expand and nothing else, and that is the reason it is still expanding with its speed decreasing for now. with this, but as the galaxies are moving far from each other, the distance between the galaxies is increasing. The speed by which the galaxies are moving away from each other is actually increasing due to the Hubble's law, which is actually that the speed of two galaxies that are the distance r, so that is v is given by the Hubble's constant multiplied by the distance between the galaxies. Here's new Pari beauty parlor. Is everything in motion? Well, we cannot really define it if everything is in rest or everything is in motion, because as we know that motion and rest, like, these are kind of relative terms, and we cannot define them without a use of any kind of frame of reference. So you need always a frame of reference to define about these things. Thus, Nirman Khan, why all light approaching parallel to the axis of a parabolic concave mirror goes through the focus of the parabola? I'm sorry, I don't have the answer. Raziv Masterwork, what is before Big Bang? Well, before the Big Bang, we are not quite sure yet, but there are other theories in physics that are trying to answer to the question that what was there before the Big Bang. Like, there is the string theory that everything is, every kind of particle, point particles, and everything is made of certain kind of small vibrating strings that we cannot actually see. These are very small kind of, yeah, but everything is made by them. And then string theory, what it says that there isn't a single kind of universe, instead there is the multiverse. So there are, when there are two universes that collide to each other, so what basically happens, it forms a single larger universe. So that is the process of Big Bang. Big crunch, when a universe will be separated into multiple parts, so that is the ending of this kind of universe, and that is the Big crunch. Shubham Gavaje, and that's antimatter, 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 antimatter. So that's really a lot of antimatter. Antimatter is the opposite of matter. Like, if we are talking about our normal day-to-day life, so the matter that we are seeing right here is rather matter. That is made of matter particles like electrons and protons and neutrons and these kinds of particles. But antimatter is that kind of matter which is rather made by other kinds of particles like anti-electrons, anti-protons, or anti-neutrons, like anti-electron. And what is actually anti-electron? It is also a kind of electron, or rather not a kind of electron. That is a particle similar to electron in its mass, but has the opposite magnitude of charge. That is the same mass as electron, but a positive elementary charge, that is a positive 1.6 times the 10 to the power negative 19 coulombs. So that's an anti-electron called positron as a better name. So antimatter is the matter made by these kinds of anti-electrons, anti-protons, and anti-neutrons, and these kinds of anti-particles. And when matter and antimatter touch each other or collide, so they really annihilate each other. Okay. अनुराग is how gravity works. Gravity everything पे क्यों लगता है? Gravity कुछ ऐसे काम करता है, since इस यूनिवर्स में ऑल्दो स्पेस एंड टाइम हम, हाँ, सबके लिए रिलेटिव हो सकते हैं, लेकिन स्पेस टाइम सबके लिए एब्सोल्यूट होता है, यानी कि एक सिंगल फैब्रिक ऑफ स्पेस टाइम है जो कि पूरे यूनिवर्स में स्प्रेड होती है, एंड दैट इज कि एवरीबॉडी शेयर्स द सेम काइंड ऑफ स्पेस टाइम. तो जब कोई बॉडी वार्प करती है स्पेस टाइम को, ऑब्वियसली तब हर बॉडी के पास इस यूनिवर्स में मास है, तो सारी बॉडीज वार्प करती हैं, एंड दैट इज द रीजन कि हर दूसरी ऑब्जेक्ट विच आर प्रेजेंट इन द वेरी सेम स्पेस टाइम पे ये फोर्स लगता है. दैट इज द ग्रेविटेशनल फोर्स. Abdul Waris, what is stress and strain? Well, in elasticity, basically, what we define to be stress and strain, that what we say, like, we have any certain object to which we are trying to compress, right? We are trying to compress each other, compress this kind of object, or we are trying to get it even larger, like that is a kind of spring which we are trying to stretch or compress. So in those kinds of cases, or we have any other such kind of even metallic object or something like a solid body, so the force that we apply per unit area of that thing is said to be the stress, while strain is the change of the length or area or any such property of the object over the initial property itself, and that is.
ये देखो क्वेश्चन, ये कौन है? तब से कौन है? तब से बोल रहा हूँ एक्सप्लेनिंग क्या लेफ्ट हैंड रूल। अगर नहीं आता है तो बता दो। डोंट स्प्रेड रूमर लाइक दैट यू आर द स्मॉलेस्ट। ये क्या लेफ्ट हैंड रूल?
Not sure.
ये देखो वन।
Okay, that's Viru Kumar Singh 1 angstrom equals is equal to, that is 10 to the power negative 8 centimeter, and that's 10 to the power negative 10 meters. Oh, yeah, yes. City Light. What do you think about the time existence? Recently, Sam Baron published a research paper in Oxford. In that paper, he proved that time might actually not exist. Since the current theories that we have till now says really that time really exists, but yeah, I have heard of Sam Baron's research paper that's published in Oxford, and that he is actually saying that time might not exist. But I haven't read about this one, so as I'll read, I'll inform you perhaps in the next live streaming. Pumpy, Priyasi, what is electric dipole? An electric dipole is a system which contains two charges of equal magnitude and opposite signs, separated by some kind of distance. Chemistry, what is multiverse? Multiverse, as defined by particularly string theory, is a concept in which there isn't a single kind of universe. Rather, there are a lots of universe like others. Well, any specific topics on which we can discuss with you, Sarim? Like there are a lot of topics in physics, lot of so fascinating topics like that is the Big Bang theory, there are black holes, string theory, quantum theory, general relativity, and everything are just so exciting. Except for when you reach to Newtonian mechanics. Now, I'm not saying that Newtonian mechanics is actually boring, but whatever the latest discoveries are going on are in modern physics. So, rather, modern physics is far more interesting.
ये कौन है? जोशी उमंग। इन विच सिटी यू आर? वी लिव इन दरिया, उत्तर प्रदेश। व्हाट इज द लॉ ऑफ द थर्मोडायनेमिक्स? डू यू नो?
Yeah.
बता दो।
Yes. Rashid, is uniform circular motion uniform? What? Not a simple question.
ये देखो
Uniform circular motion, like if we are talking like a kind of motion in which the speed of the particle throughout this entire thing remains constant, and that is not the velocity, because the velocity in any kind of circular motion will be changing and changing rather, but the speed is really uniform. So I don't think it is any like kind of sense to ask the question like the uniform circular motion, is it uniform? How time travel is possible? Team KTX101 rather. Time travel can be possible relativistically. That is when we are moving close to the speed of light. So we can travel forward in time. That is, the time is slowed down, dilated for us compared to other objects that are present at rest relative to us. Rather, they are still moving, at least relative to us, because motion is a relative term, so space and time are also relative. So in that case, the time travel is possible, and it is also possible using gravitational time dilation. I'll come prepared next time with theory of relativity. I'll go now. Bye. Bye.
लेजी बॉय कौन है? और थ्योरी ऑफ रिलेटिविटी।
Lazy boy, what is the theory of relativity? Einstein's theory of the universe, in which actually it's rather that speed of light is absolute. Speed of light is absolute, and space and time are relative. That's the theory of relativity in just so simple terms, rather in short terms. That space and time are relative terms. That is for different bodies, different persons in this universe. Space and time are different, and but for if we're talking for the speed of light, so that's the same for everybody.
Did you teach? क्वेश्चन रोक के देखो बेटा, ये बहुत तेज चल रहा है.
Joshi Umang, what is momentum? Momentum is the product of mass and velocity of any certain particle.
Sir, please recommend me authentic source of the understand complete EBC of the physics and YouTube. I'm studying the earth semester BSc physics. My concept are not clear about the physics like you. Please guide.
Okay. Mubashir Altaf. So please recommend me authentic source to understand complete ABC of physics on YouTube. I'm studying in 8th standard BS physics. My concepts are not clear about physics like you. Please guide. So if you are studying BS, rather BS physics, so I would say do you go for you to go through lectures by Professor Walter Lewin. That is lectures by Walter Lewin. They will make you love physics. That's his channel name. And in fact, he's really an inspiration for me. The way he teaches physics is really just so awesome.
बुक भी पूछे, बुक का नाम.
And book. So you, if you really want to study as a textbook in physics, so I would say for the beginners as Resnick Halliday. Now let's end it.
क्वेश्चन
No.
देख लो, एक दो क्वेश्चन ले लो.
Okay.
और
Vishal Maurya, why friction exists? Friction really exists because there are irregularities in between any two surfaces. Because like if we have one surface here and another here, so the static friction results when we are trying to slide the two surfaces by one another. But rather, what is happening right here is that there are irregularities in these surfaces due to what they are not able to properly slide over one another, and that is why friction exists. Anurag S, क्या parallel world exist करता है? Please tell me. I'm asking. May time, I guess that's many time. Parallel world, I guess you can talk about multiverse. Like वो physics में आता है कि multiverse. That is the concept of multiverse कि एक universe ने instead there are many kinds of universes, and that is about what I can say about parallel world. Here's Pumpy Priyasi. What is electric potential? Electric potential actually में होता है किसी भी body, certain body, that's any certain charge. So if there is a kind of charge distribution, right, and there is a source charge and a kind of test charge, then the electric potential of this certain amount of charge will be the potential energy of this entire system divided by the test charge itself, and that's the electric potential due to this kind of source charge. Joshi, what is angular momentum? Angular momentum is the angular form of linear momentum. That's rather the position vector of the particle that is going around circular motion, rotational motion, its cross product with the linear momentum of the particle. And W classes, what is gravitational field by? Gravitational field is basically a concept that's used to define about how gravitational force propagates through space, through empty space rather, through vacuum and everything. So rather, any sort of mass creates a kind of field around it. And that is the thing that if we are putting any other mass in this kind of field, then these masses will try to attract each other. And that is the concept of gravitational field.
कोई एक और क्वेश्चन उठाओ, और टाइम हो गया 34 मिनट हो गया. एक क्वेश्चन कोई अच्छा सा उठा के आंसर दे लो, और सॉरी बोल दो जिसको आंसर नहीं दे पाया.
Vamsi, what is charge quantized means? Charge is quantized. This means that like there is a certain amount of charge, like which is said to be the quantum of charge, the elementary charge, the charge magnitude of charge on an electron. That if we denote it by the letter E, so the term quantization of charge means you can have the amount of charge E, you can have the amount of charge 2E, you can have the amount of charge 3E, and so on. But you can never have the amount of charge 0.3E or like 0.9E. You can never have 2.5E or something like that. That is, charge takes discrete values. It can take these certain fixed values. It can't go on a continuous continuous path like 1.99e. It can't go on that kind of path. Rather, it consists of discrete values, fixed values on which it can go. An integer multiplied by that elementary charge, which is the magnitude of charge on an electron, the same as the charge on proton, and that's elementary or electronic charge, 1.6 times the 10 to the power negative 19 coulomb. So I guess that will be just enough. It's been 11 o'clock already. So
अब सोने का टाइम हो गया है. ओके, सॉरी फॉर दोज पर्सन जिनको आप आंसर नहीं दे पाए. ठीक है, बहुत सारे ऐसे क्वेश्चन हैं जिनको ये चाह के भी आंसर नहीं दे सकते, और बहुत तेज़ी से ये चूँकि क्वेश्चन चल रहा है, इसको रोक के पढ़ना पड़ रहा है, इसलिए बहुत लोग छूट जा रहे हैं, नहीं आंसर दे पा रहा है बच्चा. ओके, हाँ, हम लोग बहुत ट्राई किए, बहुत पहले से ट्राई कर रहे थे लैपटॉप से, बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली उससे कनेक्ट नहीं हो पाया है. मोबाइल से कनेक्ट हुए हैं, फिर ट्राई करेंगे 2 दिन के बाद. ओके, गुड नाइट एवरीबॉडी. गुड नाइट.
good night everyone.